Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Dad's Turn to Talk. My name is Bob. As always, we'd like to thank you for joining us. And just as always, we'd hope you'd hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, share the video. And as always, we do timestamp all of our topics, and that'll be in the description below. So if there's something that interests you more than the other topics, you can go ahead and jump straight to it. But we would like for you to watch the rest of the show because we do like to have some surprises throughout. Now, I'd like to go ahead and introduce my two co-hosts. Let's start off with my favorite bald dude. Derek, how you doing tonight?
I'm your favorite?
Yeah, you're my favorite.
Now I feel better.
There you go.
No, I'm doing fine. Cannot complain. It's the fog has been rolling in. It's a typical San Francisco Bay Area summer here, so no complaints. But it's supposed to heat up next week, actually. So it's usually around summer. This is actually technically our summertime, so I'm looking forward to barbecuing even some more.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
That should be fun. And now I'm going to introduce one of my oldest friends, the one who makes me feel old just by saying it. So, Josh, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Bob. Had a very good week. I actually want to send out a message to a person that both of you know very well. My mother's birthday is tomorrow. So happy birthday, Mom.
Happy birthday, Mom.
Happy birthday.
And hope you have a great day. And I love you. And yeah, and everything is going well. Can't wait for the show tonight. Going to be very interesting.
All right. Well, let's just go ahead and jump straight into it. And for those that have been following us, we are doing a fantasy football league here on this show. So before we get into our topics, we want to go ahead and do a recap of week 1. I said for week 1, sorry, week 2. We're doing a recap. See, look at that. All my weeks are blending together here, I'm telling you. So we're doing a recap of the fantasy football for week 2 for us. And for those of you that watched the show last week, I did say that Josh beat both Derek and I.
You bunch of losers!
But one thing we figured out during the week is that Josh does not know how to handle success. In fact, he loved to throw it out on us. Here, just check out this clip from last week. All I can say is, how the tables have turned this week. So we're going to go ahead and get into our results from this week. So once again, this is our football league, our fantasy football league that we have on DraftKings.
You don't have to show people. You can just talk about it.
Now, Josh,
show it.
Josh, this week, he was our low scorer. And Josh finished with 77.88 points. Not only did he come in last place, but he came in with the lowest score that we have had yet. Now, granted, it's only 2 weeks, but this has real potential to be the lowest score for the season. So we'll see how that works out. Maybe it will be, maybe it won't. Josh, your best play was James Conner with 22.4 points. Everybody else was just awful for you. Evan Ingram laid an egg. Tyler Lockett laid an egg. Alan Lazard laid an egg. Cooper Kupp, he did get injured, but we all had Cooper Kupp, so that really wouldn't have helped one way or another. Xavier Worthy laid an egg. Tony Pollard did okay. Your total again was 77.88 points. Final verdict. How about that? I've got a new all-time low score. All right. Great job, Josh. Great job.
Can I just say something?
No, you cannot. You lost.
Go ahead and say it.
I accidentally picked the wrong team. I was focused on doing the $1 million.
Thank you.
Yeah, exactly. You shut up. And that's what happened. So that's what happened. So I accidentally picked the wrong team.
I never said I accidentally picked the wrong team. I told you I purposefully put my Millionaire Maker lineup in there, and I shouldn't have done it.
Excuses.
So
would you shut up? You've got no business talking right now.
You shut up.
No.
All right. On to me, and unfortunately, I lost as well.
LGBT.
Okay, unfortunately, I lost as well. Ridiculous. I did come in about 30 points higher than Josh.
Oh, shut up.
How about that, Josh? The distance between
Nobody
You in the
cares.
second place finish was
You're a
30
loser.
points?
Loser, Bob.
Wait, hold on. A 30-point difference, Josh? All right. So anyway, I played Jaden Daniels at quarterback. I was hoping for a rushing touchdown, didn't get it. I didn't get help from Pacheco because he did get hurt in the fourth quarter. Kyron Williams, if you look at his stats there, he only had 25 rushing yards. Part of that was because the Rams lost 41-10 and they abandoned the run. Luckily, he got me a touchdown from like the 2-yard line, which saved his day. Debo was my best play with 21 points. I also had Alan Lazard. I take that back. Actually, my best play might have been Schoonmaker at tight end because he only cost $2,900 to get him. So, and he got me 10.3 points. So he was actually pretty good. Rashee Rice did fine with 18.5. I finished with 108.34. Final verdict. I really hate those guys. So now we're going to get to our champ for the week. We got Derek. Top finish.
That's right, to both of you.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Derek did pretty good. He had a couple of really good plays.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Aaron Rodgers did fine. Charbonnet, I think that was a really good play.
Oh, he guessed.
Charbonnet.
He doesn't even know.
Josh, be quiet. I'm trying to go over his lineup.
We really don't care.
Shut up, Josh.
So Charbonnet, I think, was a pretty good play at 17.9. Good pick on that, Derek. J.K. Dobbins, he only cost $5,400. Got you 23 points. Excellent play right there. Sutton, you've gone back to him 2 weeks in a row and didn't get anything.
I know, I shouldn't have.
Metcalf really picked up for you. Unfortunately, Mike Williams, Isaiah Likely, and of course, Cooper Kupp again got hurt. You went with the 49ers defense, finished with 114.84. You are our champ for the week. Final verdict. When do I tell them I know nothing about football?
Never.
So
you never tell them that.
We get to our leaderboard because both Josh and Derek have one win apiece. They are tied for the first place, and I am in the rear as a loser.
You bunch of losers!
So that is our fantasy for week 2. We'll get into week 3. I just got the contest opened, and I'll send you guys the invite over the next couple of days. So not bad. So now we're going to go ahead and get into our topics tonight, and we're going to continue that theme of football, and we are going to be talking about the quarterback resurgence that's going on with a few of the quarterbacks. So, if you've been watching the NFL for week 1 and 2, we do have a few quarterbacks that seem like they are on the upswing, specifically Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, and Derek Carr. So the question is this a fact that they are in a quarterback resurgence, or is this a fluke? And I am going to start with you, Josh. What do you think? Let's start with Baker Mayfield. You think this is a fact or a fluke?
I mean, absolutely a fact. I think you and I both have said for many years, Bob, we have followed Baker Mayfield. He's a leader. We still don't understand why Cleveland got rid of him. He had a bad year in Carolina, but who hasn't? Let's not forget, he literally went to L.A. for the Rams, learned the playbook on the plane, and didn't he have like a perfect QB rating that night?
No, he didn't have a perfect QB rating, but he won the game and executed a game-winning drive.
He did amazing. And I think Tampa Bay has done the right thing with him. The fact that he took over when Tom Brady retired, and they didn't, I'm trying to remember, no, because they drafted Jeff Driscoll, but they didn't, it was much earlier than when they got Baker Mayfield, right?
I think so.
And so, no, I definitely think with Baker, he's done a great job. He really has energized that fan base. And it's funny, he said in the interview the other day, they said, you rushed for like 11 yards or something. And he was like, that's horrible. Like, he wants to do better. Like, he wants to succeed. And so I definitely think with him, it's a fact.
And I don't think his stats were really all that they weren't blowing out of the water or anything for week 2, but still to go into Detroit and actually get the win there. So
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of impressive. What say you, Derek? Baker Mayfield, fact or fluke?
You already know my answer to this. You can move on. Okay. Till he wins a playoff game this year, or actually wins an NFC
He did
championship.
last year.
He beat a drowning Eagles team, Josh. That's not a win.
What?
All right.
Hey, in all fairness, they did give Detroit a run for their money in that playoff game.
No, Detroit gave us a run for their money.
Wow.
Tampa Bay was just didn't want to die. Okay.
Oh my God.
So
Okay, they're
Derek,
going to get into the playoffs. They're going to meet a real team, and then this is going to be the end of it. And then I'll hear this all over again. How much of fans you are, and it will go nowhere.
He won a playoff game. This killed me. I thought the Acolyte maybe it killed me. I think this one has killed me.
He beat a drowning Eagles team. He beat an Eagles team that was terrible. Okay. I don't care, Josh. You already lost this week. Shut up.
My God.
Okay.
Bob, what do you think?
hold on. So Derek, just to clarify, you say this is a fluke.
Yes.
He never knew when to quit. Oh.
All right, so I'm going to say fact.
Yes, you are.
I am going to say fact. I do think that Baker Mayfield has the talent. I like the roster that they got. He's in a good system that he's at that's going to help him succeed. And he's just got an attitude about him. He plays with a chip on his shoulder. And I think that that's good for him and that organization. So I do think that what we're seeing out of Tampa Bay is real. So let's go ahead and move on to our next QB. And let's talk about Sam Darnold. And I'm going to go to you, Derek, simply because you got to see this one firsthand.
Mm-hmm.
Well, maybe not firsthand, but okay, you got to feel the pain
Yes.
firsthand. What do you think? Fact or fluke? This is also
Resurgence
real?
This is also a fluke. Okay. If you guys watched that game, you saw that the OL played terribly along with our secondary. And if you have both those things not working for you, any quarterback is going to be able to score. And he did. He was on our team last year. He knew our defense. So that also helped him. This is one game. He also has to play the best division in all of the NFL. So I don't see him walking into Detroit and schooling them. I just don't. The end. Fluke.
All right.
And you know it's inevitable here. Let's put bets on when his first interception is going to be. Let's do that. Next week? The week after? When?
Did you see him coming into the locker room after the game? He was screaming out that they shouldn't have cut him from the Niners.
Did he say that?
They didn't
Yeah,
cut
you
him.
were.
He had a year deal.
It's funny.
He had 1 year on his contract.
All right, Josh, what say you? Fact or fluke?
Oh, it's tough. I'm going to say fact.
Okay.
I followed, him, Bob. I followed Darnold his whole career at USC. Everywhere else he's gone.
Oh, you didn't go to? Okay, good.
Shut up, Derek. It's a matter of time when somebody finds the right system. And look, he's got talent around him. I feel like if he didn't succeed in this, then he's probably done. And I think he's in the right system. And I think he learned a lot with that year in San Francisco. And, I was, Bob, you and I said Jameis Winston should have gone to Minnesota, but, he's 2-0. And who do they have this week?
Oh, shoot. I was just looking at it earlier, and I already forgot who it was. Give me 1 second. Let me look it up.
I always ask you the questions.
Yeah, I was telling Josh, every time that we have to look up something during this show,
Hey, no,
it's because Josh asks a question.
No, I actually have it here. They're playing the Texans.
Okay.
In Houston or in Minnesota?
We're playing in Minnesota.
I mean, I think that's a good test. I think it's a good test. Maybe
It's a
he'll
really
have that
good test.
interception Derek's talking about.
Mhm.
So I'm going to say fact.
All right.
What about Bob? Bob, I'm curious what you think.
Well, here, first off, before I get into this, I'm going to say that I feel bad for Darnold. And here's why I say that. Let's just assume that he has a fantastic season, whether it's a fact or a fluke.
Right.
McCarthy's going to be back next year. He was a first round pick.
Yeah.
I think they'll give Darnold the old heave-ho.
Thank you for your service.
Unfortunately.
I don't know why I started thinking Curb Your Enthusiasm.
I know. I know.
But as far as me goes, I do think that this is a fluke as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's not because I don't think he has the talent. I do, but I just don't. We haven't seen him bring it together really anymore. And Baker, on the other hand, he actually did take Cleveland to a playoff game.
Yes.
And didn't he actually win a playoff game with Cleveland?
Yep.
Okay. So that's 2 playoff wins he's actually got in his career. Okay.
Yay.
Okay. But anyway, the point I was making is that we've seen him together, and I don't know if we've really seen that from Darnold. And
yeah,
I just don't know. I can't help but think that maybe this is just a fluke. I will say this is kind of interesting. Both Darnold and Mayfield both played with Carolina, and they get out of Carolina, and all of a sudden now they're doing really well.
Yeah.
So
maybe that's what
Carolina's-
Bryce Young needs is get out of there.
Carolina is where you go to get cursed. And then
Apparently.
Oh.
Yeah, because like Baker was doing terrible in Carolina, gets straight into the Rams, and all of a sudden he starts winning games. So,
can I say one thing real quick? Because you mentioned Carolina and the whole Bryce Young thing. Think about it this way, gentlemen. Since Dave Tepper, the owner, took over, fired Ron Rivera, traded Christian McCaffrey, got rid of their number 1 overall pick, got rid of DJ Moore, drafted Bryce Young over CJ Stroud, fired Matt Rule. Are you freaking? And now they benched Bryce Young.
Well, I think the problem there is you got a coach who didn't really want Bryce Young, and you've got an organization that did, and so they're in a pissing contest right now, and the coach is winning out on this one.
Yeah, it's I mean, I still would have played Bryce Young because why not?
I would have too.
Yeah, it couldn't make it any worse. Let me put it to you that way. Might as
they're
well.
not scoring, Derek. They're not even they're losing by 50 points.
I said it was going to have to be baptism by fire with him. That's the only way he's going to learn.
Maybe sitting on the bench behind Andy Dalton will help him.
Andy Dalton ain't going to save that team.
I will say this.
Win more games.
I wouldn't be surprised if the team is actually more competitive with Dalton. It's not that they're going to go be a playoff team with Dalton, but I do think they could be more competitive just because he's got that veteran experience. But I'm kind of with you, Derek. I think you just kind of need to learn and whatnot. But
now his stock is going to
plummet. Yeah, and who's going to?
I mean, that's it.
Peter Schrager said the other day about him. He's like, "Are you going to trade him? Who's going to want him?"
Yeah, that's right.
Who
Third
really
string
wants
sounds
him?
good.
In terms of that. But it's I told both of you this the other day concerning the Panthers and last year's draft. They didn't have a first round pick. They traded into the first round. The problem is they traded at 31 or 29 or 28. There were no receivers left.
No, everybody was gone.
Big-time receivers that you would want to get.
Yeah.
So
I still don't understand that move because they traded in and they ended up getting Leggett, right?
Yeah.
They could have waited 1 or 2, because they were the next pick or the first pick in the second round, weren't they?
Yeah.
Because Buffalo traded out and got Keon Coleman, and they got, their a wide receiver that they wanted as a second rounder with a second round salary. So I mean, that was perfect for them. I just don't understand the move by Carolina. They could have gotten the same player if they had just waited, unless they thought Buffalo was going to take that one player, but.
Whatever. I don't know. Where did he go?
That may have been what they were thinking, actually.
Maybe.
Where did he go to school? Yeah. Clemson?
Leggett, South Carolina.
South Carolina.
So stop asking questions, Josh.
I just was curious because I was curious why they took someone. I would have taken Keon Coleman.
Yeah.
He could have been a number
Well,
one, a strong.
Maybe
number.
that's what Buffalo had. Maybe Buffalo was thinking they would take Leggett, and then if Carolina traded in, they would just take Coleman. So maybe they already had it in like an if-then statement ready to go. So
Could have been
Let
that.
me ask you guys this: if there was one huge mistake in your opinion that Carolina has made, what do you think it is? I'll tell you what mine is, but go ahead.
No, Josh, why don't you feel free? Because you've already said you're going to.
go ahead, just say it, Josh.
I think it was McCaffrey.
What are you talking about? You're always complaining that he's hurt all the time.
I know, but he at least brought something to them. Who have they had?
Well, how can he bring something to them if he's on the bench hurt all the time? The
I
way
know.
Josh describes it, Derek, Josh makes it sound like he's hurt every single week. And I tried to
He's not almost
Josh
hurt
and I
every
were having this
single week, Josh.
Josh and I
He's
were
not.
having this conversation the other day, and he's like, he's always hurt. And I said, what do you mean he's always hurt? Well, he's just always hurt. He had like 1,400 yards last year.
I was
I'm
about
like,
to say, what?
It's like, how is he always hurt if he's getting 1,400 yards? Year before, he had 1,000 yards. I'm like, how's he doing that if he's hurt all the time? And then the year before, he didn't even play the full year with the 49ers.
Maybe he got hurt a lot when he was in the cursed house of Carolina, but since he's been
exactly.
So
Josh
he's
keeps
been
thinking
out
back
hurt.
to how many times that he hurt him when he picked him number 1 overall.
Oh, that's what he's mad about. Okay, got it.
So who do you guys think?
With
I actually think a bigger mistake was getting rid of DJ Moore.
I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah, that's
No,
actually,
I do, because DJ Moore is a down the field threat, and you need a wide receiver who can stretch the field.
Yeah.
And that's what's hurting
Carolina.
Part of what's hurting Bryce Young. So
What do you think, Derek? Same?
Yeah, I would say DJ Moore, but I think the issue is also bigger here. I think they just got, whenever that new ownership came in,
Yeah.
that's really what's been cursing them. If I had to pick a player, it would be DJ Moore. If I had to pick the real problem, I think it's
Pepper. Yeah.
I think it's what
Agreed.
it is.
all right, let's get back on track here. Let's get back to the quarterback resurgence. And we're gonna talk about Derek Carr next. And I'm gonna start with you, Josh. Fact or fluke?
I'm going to say fact. And not because of week 1. I think because of week 2. He went in and destroyed the Cowboys.
Yeah, he annihilated
Dallas. Like you
them.
follow
Dallas, that's right.
I mean, he is on a hot streak right now. I don't know what has changed. I'm trying to figure out if they got a new offensive coordinator in New Orleans. They might have. But he's throwing the ball. He's looking sharp. He's not turning it over. This is his second year in New Orleans, and he looks great. Good for him. I was really, they drafted Spencer Rattler from South Carolina, and I was like, oh, Spencer Rattler will probably come in, and it's like lit a fire under Carr.
I don't think that's what lit a fire under him. But I will say this, there is a difference. And you know what I think the difference is? They're actually throwing the ball downfield. Last year he was captain check down.
Yeah.
And this year they're going deep on plays, and they're stretching the field. And by doing so, that's forcing teams to play honest with them. So
they're also
because of that, it's opening a lot more. And Kamara is taking advantage of that too. So
big time. So I think
that. All right, Derek, what do you say? Fact or fluke?
This one may very well be a fact. It may very well be. They not only, I mean, Carolina, okay, you whipped on them, that's fine. But yes, week 2, you pulverized the Cowboys. So you've now had 2 extremely dominant victories back to back. And I'm taking a look at their schedule too. They can still easily, if they keep playing like this, they could easily pull off a lot of wins this season. Like they got the Eagles at home. Then they got to go to Atlanta. They're going to have to go to the Chiefs. That won't be easy. Then they come back home for Tampa Bay and Denver. I mean, what are you looking at there? Like potentially, 6-3 maybe? I mean, that's not bad for the Saints, especially, for an NFC South team. Outside of Tampa Bay, yes, of course, Baker Mayfield. Let's not make anybody get hurt feelings here. But they're more than capable of getting some solid wins. And if they rack up enough of them, which it looks like they might, this could be fact. This very well could be.
I'm trying to remember, Derek, did you pick the Saints to win the NFC West? Because I think Josh and I picked the Bucks.
No, I picked Atlanta.
That's right, you did. Okay, I couldn't remember.
I didn't see New Orleans coming at all.
No, I didn't either. I thought that Allen, the head coach, is on the hot seat, and after 2 weeks, I'm like shocked.
I had to do like 3 double takes. I'm like, wait, whoa. The score was what?
Oh,
In Jerry's world?
it was so good.
And you know the thing is that it could be a fluke, but I'm like you two. I'm thinking this is a fact here.
Yeah.
Because they looked impressive. They looked dominant. And Derek Carr seemed to have command of that offense and seemed to be moving the football at will. And obviously it helps when Kamara scores. What was it, like 4 touchdowns that he did? But Carr was bombing that thing down the field to some wide open players. Now, in all fairness, the Cowboys have shown over the last couple of years, even though they have had a decent defense, that you still can throw the football on them. It's just that their pass rush is so good it's been so good that it can hide some of their deficiencies on defense. But, Carr was taking advantage of them out there. And, I think they looked very impressive. So I'm going to say fact on that one, too. I've actually been real impressed with the way the way New Orleans has played.
Yeah, me too.
So I'm looking up the New Orleans coaching staff.
All right.
Their offensive coordinator is Clint Kubiak, which must be what's his name's son. And where did he come from last year? San Francisco.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, so they do have a new offensive coordinator.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So he was their offensive passing game specialist in 2023, and this year he's offensive coordinator. So I'm trying to remember who was their coordinator last year, but definitely, I mean, that's what Derek and I have talked about is that Shanahan pedigree. Yep. So maybe that's it.
Yeah. Anytime you go into the Shanahan learning tree, you're going to be better as a result.
Yeah.
And I will say they have looked pretty impressive.
Yeah.
And you know what? Their defense has actually looked pretty good too. I know obviously that's not, that doesn't necessarily always translate to better quarterback play, but when you get the ball on short ends of the field more often, that helps your offense. So I got to say, this team looks like it could be real, and I'm saying fact on Derek Carr, at least based on those first 2 games. Obviously,
as of now,
a lot of football to play.
Yeah.
And for all 3 of these guys, it could be completely different, here in a couple of weeks. But I will say, just based on these first 2 weeks, I like what I'm seeing.
Sure. Yeah, me too. It's going to be fun. They got a good test this week too. They're back home, and Philly's coming to them. So
that's going to be interesting.
Yeah,
I think it could be actually a pretty good game there.
I think it could be too.
It'd be very good.
Now I am hearing that AJ Brown's going to be out most likely again this week. So
there you go.
That could put a little damper on Philly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, we'll see. So
I don't know.
All right, gentlemen. Anything else on fact or fluke?
Is it also maybe the fact that we're asking this because a lot of teams have been bitten by the injury bug so hard thus far? And
they're not lying there.
Like the fact that we're asking this question, maybe these guys are getting to capitalize as a result of that, which is entirely possible. I'm just saying, like, between LA and my team, and there's at least like a good probably 3 others in there that have just dropped like flies. So that may be the result of this too.
Maybe. But I can't think of really any huge injuries on the teams that they were playing.
There weren't on those teams. Or did Dallas have? No, Dallas is all right.
Dallas just got crushed.
Yeah, they got destroyed. That was it. They got thumped.
Yep. Done. Oh darn.
Shucks.
I'm real disappointed. So
congratulations, Dak. We'll give you the highest paying salary in the NFL and go get crushed.
There should be a
be a meme. That's so good to be a meme.
There's actually probably a whole podcast we could do about the story of Dak Prescott.
Oh, big time.
And the problem with Dak is I do think Dak is talented. I think that, he can play. The problem is I don't think that the roster's built to get him there, and I just don't know if he's got that it factor to get over that hump.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like he gets to the hump.
Break through the ceiling.
Yeah, he gets there because he does have talent and he gets there and then he just doesn't get over it.
Nope.
And I don't know, maybe he will in his career, but just as of what I've seen, I'm just not seeing.
I don't
Right
think
now.
Especially not the way the roster's built.
No, it's
That's
a
for
very.
sure.
I mean, they got rid of Tony Pollard, who was their best, and they brought back Zeke.
Oh, and Zeke's washed.
I mean,
Yeah,
it's like, well,
Jeez.
I've said this for years, Bob. You know this. As long as Jerry Jones is their GM, I don't see they haven't won a title since '95.
Yeah.
Well, that's a whole other story.
Like, that's crazy that the Dallas Cowboys have not won a Super Bowl since it's going to be 30 years next year.
Oh God.
That is nuts. 30 years since Barry Switzer won them a Super Bowl.
Oh, God.
I mean,
With Jimmy
Dak,
Johnson's team.
I mean, this is
That's
the question.
true.
Dak Prescott, if we put him on any other team,
Mhm.
does he win a Super Bowl?
Uh,
I think so. I think he could.
It would have to be somebody like a Baltimore.
Or Detroit. Or I don't know.
Maybe Detroit. I'd see him doing better with Baltimore than Detroit. He has more options, I think, with Baltimore.
I mean,
See, because here's the thing with Dallas, like you just said, more options. You know, you look at Dallas, you look at, say, their receiving core. Okay, Brandon Cooks can still play, but he's not the same Brandon Cooks that he was a few years ago. So it's pretty much CD Lamb. I mean, he is the number one target. They have their running game is really, I think, going to take a big downturn this year. From previous years. And then you also look at their defense. Like I said, they have a good pass rush, and that hides some of their deficiencies when the pass rush is on. But when it's not, then you end up seeing something like what happened where Derek Carr rips them up, or where Jordan Love ripped them up. And so that's what you end up seeing if they don't have that pass rush, you know, on top of its game.
They're not going anywhere.
Well, they'll get that. What have we talked about? Say it with me.
They start out strong, and then
12-5.
12-5, no playoffs.
The end. Rinse, repeat.
Yep, it's exactly what it is.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Anything else on Factor Fluke?
No, interesting round of discussion here. Well done.
All right.
Good luck, Mr. Carr.
Yeah.
All right. So next, we want to go ahead and we want to talk about streaming. And the reason why we want to talk about that is, you know, there's been a lot of changes as far as to the television model. Kind of, you're seeing it go from more from linear to more streaming. Especially, we saw that at the Emmys, where almost everything it won was something that was streaming. So let's go ahead and let's talk about this, gentlemen. So we want to talk about the pros and cons of the streaming model, because I think there's a lot of pros and cons. And these are just things that you think are good for it and against it. And I'm going to start with you, Derek. What do you think about the streaming model? Do you think that it's more beneficial than the linear television, or what do you think?
I guess I'll start with pros, if that's where we should start.
Go for it.
It is more beneficial, and I'll give you the reasons as to why. Well, this isn't so much true anymore, but this used to be true, and it still is true on some of them. No ads. No ads. That's huge. No ads. You don't have to worry about stuff when you go through streaming. Generally, now they're starting to switch that too, because thanks to a movie we're going to be reviewing that we watched revisited on Hulu this week. Hulu decided to put ads on there, and so did Disney Plus and all of them. So I'm not pleased with that at all. But you can still get no ads on certain ones, and it's great. It's awesome. That's fantastic. They always try to get you with the ads, so just leave it to YouTube in order to contaminate your viewing with plenty of those. But that's a big deal. And the second is that it is really convenient in ways, you know, you can't even really, you can't, once you really start going streaming, it is kind of hard to go back to linear cable, because Oh, look, I don't have to watch it on my TV. I can watch it on my computer. Oh, look, I can also watch it on my phone. Oh, look, I can watch it on my kid's tablet. The convenience factor is great. I can't tell you how many times I've put my kids in front of the virtual babysitter because I needed to get something done. And you can do it on any device you want as a result. And then I think the third reason that it's incredibly beneficial is just how much variety there is. How many different streaming channels you can get, depending on what you're into. The variety that's involved is fantastic. Just on Disney Plus, they have like, what is it? They got Disney, Pixar, Marvel, Star Wars, National Geographic, and Hulu now? That's a ton of content. That's a massive, massive, massive amount of content. So the variety is fantastic in terms of, it does differ depending on what you're looking for in terms of shows, but you can't deny that they've got something out there just about for everybody now. So I think all in terms of the pros, it's more beneficial in a lot of ways. There's definitely some negatives about it, which we'll get into, but there's not much to dislike, just in terms of streaming in general.
All right, Josh, why don't you tell me about the pros of this?
I definitely agree with Derek on a lot of it. I think for us who we've talked about this are busy dads, and we might not be able to get to the theaters as much as we would like to. Being able to put something on Netflix, being able to put something on Disney Plus, and watching a series that maybe they would have made into a movie. We would have been able to doing it this way. We get to it faster. We really want to see it. And I think that's been a really, cool thing. Also being able to go back and watch shows that we grew up with, go back and watch something that we haven't watched in 30 years and to see how it's, has it stayed the same? Is it gotten worse? And I really feel that is, a good thing. I agree with the ads, not having, as many ads. Maybe we have one or two. I really haven't seen, like, for me on like Disney Plus, I haven't seen ads. Definitely Peacock. Definitely Peacock I have, and yes, it kind of drives me crazy. But I definitely think streaming has, helped like the working family. If you can't get to the movies, that you're able to see something that you might want to watch. Yeah, I think that's been a big plus.
All right. So I'm going to give you my pros, but almost every single one of my pros has a con associated with it.
I was going to go there, but you go first.
And I have a just to let you both know. So
I'm going to say I do think that there is a lot of variety, which I think can be a good thing, but I'll get to the con associated with that in a minute.
I bet I know what you're going to say. That's probably what I'm going to say.
I think that I will say that some of most of my favorite shows are on streaming. It's almost like linear television just doesn't have the same caliber of stuff coming out like that it used to. You also see that so many networks and stuff are going towards streaming. And so that well, I don't want to say necessarily that the future is just there, but I do think that you just see a lot moving in that direction, and you see, and again, there's a con associated with that, but you do see a lot of that, especially back during the pandemic, everybody was making this big move towards that.
Right.
There was one other thing I was thinking about. You mentioned it, Josh, that you could go back and watch some of your old shows that you wanted. Like there have been shows that I missed. Breaking Bad was one. Better Call Saul. These were ones that I missed that I went back and binge watch just straight through. I didn't have to watch like a rerun one day and then the next day. I was able to just binge them through and get caught up on them and just enjoy those. Plus shows that, I remember people saying, "Oh, that one was pretty good." The Shield was one of those for me that I heard a lot of people talking about that I never watched it and went and checked it out. And I was like, "Oh my goodness, this is really good." So it introduced me to a lot of good shows that are out there. And then there are a lot of new ones that have come out that have been pretty good. I just a couple days ago or a few days ago caught the season premiere of the second season of Tulsa King. And that was
you're a big fan of that one, right?
Yeah, I really loved that season one. Yeah. That's the type of show that puts hair on your chest. I mean,
I'm good.
How can it not? You got Stallone as a gangster, and it's great. That's a dad show right there. That's a good show. But anyway, so there's a lot of good stuff out there. I saw where Shogun won a ton. Now, in all fairness, Shogun did premiere on FX, but it also got a lot of its viewing on Hulu because it was releasing, actually a day early on Hulu, and then it would air on FX the next day. So I almost want to say it was a streaming show, primarily a streaming show. Fallout did, really well at the Emmy with Emmy nominations and stuff like that. So there were a lot of shows, at the Emmys that won, and not that I put a whole lot of faith into the Emmys. I've got my own thoughts on that. But point is that, if you look at the nominees and stuff like that, most of them are from streaming now. So, yeah.
Could you imagine if 24 had been a streaming thing back in the day?
Probably would have been.
We would have binge watched the whole thing probably.
You know what? I don't think it would have been a streaming now that I think about it, because the concept of 24 was 24 episodes. Each one was an hour of a 24-hour day. Streaming, their shows tend to have very limited number of episodes, and we'll get to that when we get to the cons. So that's kind of what I think about the pros, is that there is good variety. Some of my favorite shows, actually pretty much now I think about it, all my favorite shows are really on streaming, except maybe one.
Yeah.
So there's some good stuff there, but I do have a lot of cons when it comes to streaming.
Okay.
So, all right, Derek, why don't you give us some of your cons?
Okay, I'll give you some. And then there's a couple more I was just kind of thinking of, but we'll start with the three I could think of right off the bat. First one's this. Money. So let's say that I wanted to watch that game in the Tundra. I'm sorry, Josh, for bringing up bad memories here. But when Kansas City faced Miami, right? Now that was on Peacock, wasn't it? Only?
Yeah.
What if I don't have that? What if I can't afford it?
Yeah.
I'm out that game. I don't get to watch now.
Yeah.
That doesn't seem very fair to me.
I agree.
And they do this with a lot of sports now these days. And I think that's a very, very cruel way to treat a sports fan. I don't agree with that. Now, granted, okay, you can still watch, probably the games that are, syndicated through your hometown, right? Like the Niners game would always be on here. But let's say you're like Josh, and if you are a Dolphins fan, but you live in LA, you never get to see that.
Mm-mm.
So that's unfair. That's unfair to the consumer. And unless you pay that money, that's what they hold against you.
Yep.
So not only that, but a lot of people drop linear cable just to go to streaming. Okay, well, how many streaming services do you have? At some point, this adds up. And really, was it worth the money to drop linear cable?
It's like you're spending the same amount that you were on cable anyway.
Exactly. So this stuff does add up very quickly. The second con that I have with it, this actually gets back to a point that I've had before, but hang with me on it, is that there's a certain addiction that comes with streaming. It's not an addiction that you would think is like, alcohol or drugs or anything like that. But it does make it very easy to not get your arse up off the couch to go to the movie theater, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Okay? So unless you're Bob and you're ready to go see Beetlejuice on a Thursday night at 11:30.
Yeah.
Tell me who's really motivated in order to get up and go. I mean, except for us, because, we're trying to get our folks motivated here to go back to the theaters. But there's not too many people doing that right now, other than us and Cinemark or AMC or whoever else is involved. So that's the second thing that is a big issue. And finally and thirdly, what happens if your internet goes out?
Yeah, Bob has said that for years. For
You're done.
years. Because he buys Blu-rays.
Nothing for you. You don't get to do anything now. Enjoy.
Yeah.
Except watch on your cell phone and then pay up the arse for it in terms of data fees.
Yeah.
That's your consequence of that. So those are the three that immediately hit me off the top of my head.
All right, Josh, what do you think? What are some of the cons
I
here?
think one of the biggest cons, and I think both of you will agree with me, is the oversaturation of the product. So let's take Star Wars, for example. They released so many things on streaming, right?
Mm-hmm.
To get people to watch. And let's face it, they didn't give us a great product because just so many things, they kept putting on streaming. And then it's like, Bobby knows this is my biggest pet peeve with it all. It's not long enough. They're doing a 30-minute show and there's no storytelling. How can you really build a successful story if you're putting it on for 30 minutes?
What was 30 minutes that had this issue?
I mean, the Obi-Wan show, each one was about 30 minutes.
Oh, it was? Okay. I didn't.
Yeah. Andor was at least longer. I mean, they should have realized that. Like when Andor came out, they were like close to an hour. And those have been good. House of Dragon, they've done longer. But like, think about, what we're going to talk about next week. Like Agatha, 30-minute show. Well, probably too long because we're not,
Yeah, Agatha only released about an hour or two ago. So we just didn't have a chance to get to it to talk about it on this show. So we'll have to wait till next week.
We have to take our beating next week.
But I think, oversaturation of the product right away is a big thing. I agree with you, Derek, in terms of money. Yeah. Money is huge when it comes to streaming. And like you said, here we had an NFL playoff game last year. Dolphins and Chiefs. That's a great game. Yep. We're putting it on Peacock. Really?
Mm-hmm.
Really? I'll give you another one for this year. Bobby doesn't even know this. Boise State and Oregon. Great game. Had to watch it on Peacock.
Yeah. This is now what's happening. This is now what's happening when the services are tied to networks themselves.
It's like they're putting it on there.
This was the deal they made.
And it's funny. I know it's like when I'm watching football on a Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
I like taking my remote and flipping through the stations fast, right?
Mm-hmm.
If something is streaming, it's not fast. If I want to go to say for example, I'm watching Oregon and Boise State. And I want to go watch, Alabama and Wisconsin, which wasn't the same week, but I'm just giving an example, just see what's going on there. I got to exit out of that menu, go back to my regular channels and go there versus if I'm watching ESPN, ESPN2, Fox, CBS, I'm just hitting recall on my remote and it's going right there.
Well, that's the other way they get you too, is what if you wanted faster internet? Pay up.
It's it's money.
Yep.
It's a money corporation, and that's what drives me crazy. If you're going to do a sports thing, I don't know. I think give us the option. It's going to be on NBC and it's going to be on Peacock.
That would be fair.
Because if somebody gets rid of satellite or cable,
or at least like the big do the top 25 college games on both. I don't think that's unfair.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
I think that's a fair thing to be able to request.
And you don't even think about it. If you think about it, I go on. I mean, both of you guys probably do the same thing. You go on your guide and you look at the channels. Guess what? On NBC, it's not going to give me Oregon and Boise State. Yeah. So I forget about it. And then if they maybe say, hey, they cut to a highlight, Bob, and they say, oh, Dylan Gabriel just threw a touchdown. I'm like, oh, shoot. It's on Peacock. I got to go to Peacock now.
Yep.
And do that. So
do you have Xfinity, Josh?
No, I've got Dish.
Oh, okay.
I've got to.
Xfinity, this is the one reason why I still like linear cable, is because Xfinity has a killer sports app on it.
Oh, does it?
Through cable. Yeah, it's awesome.
That's cool.
So,
I've got the sports package. It's for me, it's just, and I love Dish Network, and they have a great app that I can do. It's just remembering when a big game is on streaming. That kind of irritates me, that I'm like, I don't think about it. And it's funny, ESPN Plus, you can watch, I'll put it on my iPad if there's something on and have it in the background. But when it comes to, I'm just like, why a big game like that? Would you do it on streaming and not have it shown on NBC as well? So we can, so people could see it. I don't know. I'm just like weird about that. Another console oversaturation of certain products, I think. Pricing is a big thing. Also agree with both of you on Wi-Fi. What if your Wi-Fi breaks down? Then you're out of luck. That's why Bobby's always told me for years and years, Josh, I get a hard copy. I don't do it anymore. I and it's funny, I'm packing. I have so many DVDs and Blu-rays, and my wife's like, why don't you just get rid of them? I'm like, oh, I'm like, no.
less for me.
Are you kidding me?
That's when you grab all of them and you run down the hall.
Oh, I know. I've got to have them in a secret hiding spot.
No.
I mean,
not my stories.
So again, not my novellas. Anyway, so those are I think my three right now. Bob, what about yours?
All right, I got a lot of them. You guys have mentioned some of them. So pricing, of course, but I'm going to add to that. The prices consistently increase. And one of the reasons why the prices keep increasing is because a lot of these streaming services are not making the money that they expected to make. Like they made a lot during COVID, because people were at home and they were watching on streaming, but then the well kind of dried up there. And so they're not bringing in the money that they used to bring in on them. And so they up the prices on there. And you mentioned, Derek, no ads. Well, what they're ending up doing is they keep increasing the prices, hoping that we will get tired of the price increase and actually drop down to the ad tier. And the reason why they're hoping that is because they can make money on the ads. That's how they're hoping to get their money back. Because if you think about it, that's how linear television used to or still makes its money. They make it by advertisers. Yeah. And that's the same case here. Now they're hoping to have ads. And I think eventually you're going to see them all go to just ads. Now, maybe it'll be where you pay to where all the ads are at the beginning, or you pay a little bit less and they're kind of mixed throughout, or what the case is. But I think eventually you're going to see all these streaming services just go to an ad tier. So the pricing is a problem, especially when there's so many of them. And then those prices continue to increase because they're trying to get that revenue back. Then, Josh, you mentioned the oversaturation. So what's happening is a lot of these streaming services rushed out to try to get content out, and they greenlit a bunch of shows. Now, I heard another YouTuber talking about this, and it's very true that when you look at an old model of linear television, a bunch of pilots were made, and they would shop those around to different networks, and only a handful of those would get picked up. Now, a lot of these, they don't even have a pilot. They just turn around and they greenlight a show. And so they'll greenlight it for 8 episodes or something like that, give them a bunch of money. And so it's just money down the drain. And especially if it turns out that the show, stinks like the Acolyte, and where they turned around and they just greenlit the show. Said, yeah, sure. Here you go. Here's $180 million. Go make 8 episodes.
Yeah.
And
only 8.
And before, if they had made, a pilot, they would have seen from the pilot that it was awful and it would have never been picked up. So now it's just $180 million down the drain.
It was a great show.
So what ends up happening is you've got an oversaturation of content. Like you said, a lot of it is bad. Now you do get some good ones out there. You get a Stranger Things, a One Piece, a Tulsa King, a Yellowstone. you know, Shogun, some of these others that are pretty good. But because this oversaturation, you're getting a lot of content that's just pretty bad. You also mentioned the sports. That's a huge issue. I agree with you, Josh, that it's tough to try to flip back and forth between them all. Like I almost have to watch something on my TV and then watch it on my phone at the same time in order to watch both games because I can't switch back and forth.
Right.
Because one's on streaming and the other one's not. Another problem that I have is the number of episodes. You see that a lot of these streaming shows, they only have 8 episodes, maybe 10 at most.
That's crazy.
What happened to, these shows that had 20 episodes in a season or 24 episodes in a season? Yeah, you still see some of that on linear TV. And even then you're seeing it less and less, where you're seeing shows run for half a season and then they have a completely different show in the time slot the second half of the season. So, you see a lot of that. But what happened to that? Where we could just go through an entire year. They took a few months off and then they got back to work and we were right back in just a few months later. Now we get 8 episodes and we're waiting a year and a half to 2 years in between seasons. Like, not every show that comes out, for streaming has another season the very next year. Most of them, it's coming out like 2 years later.
You gotta wait.
And most of the time, like Disney, for example, they're like, check out, you have an 8-episode series, right, guys? And what do they do? The first night, there's 2 episodes.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, that's 2. Then you're down to like, it's fast to do and takes forever to make.
Yeah, I just don't get that, why it's taking so long to get some of this stuff out. Like you mentioned Andor, it's going to be what? When did the last one come out? Was it 2022?
Yeah.
When season 1 came out?
Yep.
It's 2 years. Yeah.
I mean,
but by the time the next season comes out, it's going to be 2025. It's going to be at 2.5 years.
That's insane.
That's a long time.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a pretty big deal. So yeah, it's just, so you're seeing less episodes. They take longer to bring it out, which is very frustrating. Look at Stranger Things, for example. When this thing first started, the kids were kind of the age they were supposed to be. Now they're all Millie Bobby Brown. She's like 21, 22 years old. She's playing like a 14-year-old or a 15-year-old. She's playing like a 14-year-old or 15-year-old, something like that. So yeah, it's just, I just don't like how long it takes between everything. So those are just some of the cons. And like I said, I think you're going to see prices continue to increase simply because they're going to want everybody to drop down to that ad tier, because that's where they're going to try to make their money back. Because truth of the matter is, a lot of these streaming services are not making profit. Netflix, I think I saw that they were making profit. And again, I heard some other YouTubers talk about this, but Netflix made some profit last year. And I think Max was the only other one. Every other
Max
one
is tied to HBO. That's a bit of a different thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because it already had premium cable service to begin with.
Yeah. So every other one though lost money, and Amazon doesn't care because they really are focused more on their products.
They'll get it back.
No, yeah, their stuff is designed to bring attention to their store and products. Yeah, that's what they want. So they don't mind losing money.
If it wasn't for streaming and Netflix, we probably would never have gotten Cobra Kai.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's and I'm not knocking it completely, because obviously there's some good stuff on there.
Like you mentioned Cobra Kai. We mentioned I mentioned Shogun, Stranger Things,
Bear.
The Bear has been pretty good. Even though I do think season 3 was a down for it. I think season 3 was a setup season for what's to come this next one. But so there's a lot of good stuff that we look forward to, and then there's a lot of trash. We get the Acolyte, or God only knows what Agatha's going to be like, but we'll give that one a shot. I really hope that it's better than what it looked like, because that trailer looked awful. But
I watched it tonight. It was great. Very good.
I'm sure you did.
Stop it. I will say this though. I'm leaving Agatha aside. The streaming services do have some fun options when it gets to like a fun holiday season, like Halloween.
Yeah,
they go all out for it. That part's great. That you can sign me up for all the time, because if you're gonna go heavy on anything like that, you usually do a pretty good job with what you feature in terms of the content. Especially like Disney, they'll go all out for that, and it's a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, and I do think, like I said, that they do have, despite having some trashy content, they actually have some pretty good content out there. Every now and then I find a gem on there that I start watching. I was kind of like, hey, you know what? This was actually pretty good. Yeah. I saw The Gentleman on Netflix, which I thought was pretty good.
That is good.
That was a pretty good one. Like I already mentioned, Shogun. I keep going back to that simply because it won so many Emmys, and I thought that was excellent. Fallout was great. I mean, so there's a lot of on there that are pretty good.
Can I show you guys something? I just looked up Disney Plus. I don't know if you guys can see it. So here's the front page, Agatha, right? Usually they'll show that. Am I right? Just one thing. Watch this. Another one.
Okay.
Hold on. Sorry, I'm just trying to. So we have this one.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
This one. 3 promos.
They're trying to make some profit back on that. Let's be honest. Agatha. I mean, we've talked about this before, that it seems like Marvel's trying to make a course correction, and Agatha was one of the projects before that course correction, and so they're kind of stuck having to release it. So I don't know if it's
43 minutes, the first 2 episodes. So,
but that's more comedy than any. I mean, I'm not totally against that. If it's a comedy show, that's usually what they are.
Yeah. So we'll check it out. Maybe it can't be worse than The Acolyte. There's no way.
That's true. Good point.
I love The Acolyte. What are you guys talking about? And
you're gonna love Agatha too. So start giving your good reviews now.
Yeah, there's no way it's worse than The Acolyte. There's no way.
Yeah. No.
It can't be. Okay, so my standard for it is going to be: is it better than Secret Invasion?
Oh God!
Wait, okay. So what's worse then, Secret Invasion or The Acolyte?
The Acolyte's worse, but I got to compare it to another Marvel show. So,
yes.
Secret Invasion to me was the worst Marvel show.
It was. Even though the first episode was okay.
All right.
But it got worse.
Anything else on the streaming model you guys want to talk about?
No, I think it's good.
It is. There is one more little con I had thought about, but it is a little bit nitpicky, and I'll leave it alone. If you want to watch Marvel, you have to go to Disney. Like, if you just are interested in like Star Wars, I mean, who knows why you would be now? But if you're just interested in, if you're just interested in that, then you have to get Disney Plus, and it's almost like you're forced into it. That's not fair either. And if you like DC, well, you better get Max. That's the only way you're watching that.
Well, you know what though? Recently, DC did lease or license some of their stuff out to Netflix, but it was only temporary. I think some of it's already been pulled, but they did have some of it on Netflix for a little while. So.
Oh, by the way, Josh, watch the first Daredevil.
Yes.
What I just set my profile for all of that, so I'm going to start it.
Yeah, you got to get to work on that. That one you'll binge. I swear you'll binge that one.
Yeah, I do want to watch that, and I kind of want to watch Shogun too.
Yes,
it's good. It's really good. I started. I think I'm like about 3 in. It's intense. Get ready.
Yeah,
it's good.
I'm gonna do that. So,
all right. Anything else?
Nope.
I think that's it.
All right. So we're gonna go ahead and get into our last topic now, and I gotta say, gentlemen, this is a topic that I had an absolute blast with. We here on this show, we had came up with an idea that we want to look back at some underrated films. Now, these could be films that maybe they weren't that big of a hit at the time. Maybe it did do okay, but just people had kind of forgot about it. Just it was kind of underrated. Whatever the reason is, it's not one that comes to people's mind, and we think that these films deserve a second look. And the film that we looked at for this week is The Mask of Zorro.
That was good.
Yeah, that was kind of cool.
Yeah, that was nice.
So,
Very
like I
good.
said, we're going to be looking at underrated movies, and the first one we are going to talk about is The Mask of Zorro. This is a movie that came out back in 1998, I believe that it was. Stars Antonio Banderas, Catherine Zeta-Jones, and the great Anthony Hopkins. So, gentlemen, why don't you tell me about The Mask of Zorro? Josh, we're going to start with you. After having rewatched The Mask of Zorro, what did you think? Because I do want to point out, all of us saw it back when it came out.
Yeah.
So, and we all liked it back then. But again, it's just a movie that kind of has fallen by the wayside over the years. It did get a sequel, but it wasn't because it tore it up at the box office, and the sequel wasn't that great. But the first film was fantastic at the time. So now, having re-seen it, Josh, what did you think of The Mask of Zorro?
Still fantastic. Great movie. It's my favorite origin story. You get the origin. Really, just it was easy to watch. It was funnier than what I remembered. I thought Antonio, and it's funny, I thought Antonio Banderas was such a good pick for this movie. Like, I don't know if they had gotten somebody else, if it would have been as good. And the chemistry that he had with Anthony Hopkins and, Catherine Zeta-Jones. Oh, my God.
Ooh.
I want to point that out real quick because you mentioned Catherine Zeta-Jones. So her character of Elena, that is how you do, that's an old school, strong female character. And I point that out because she can hold her own with the sword. She's got a little bit of spice to her as far as, she is a free spirit. She's not exactly proper all the time. She's a free thinker, and yet she's got she's got sex appeal and everything. This is, old school, the way they would write a strong female character. Not somebody who is all stoic and is basically a man. This was this is very much a feminine character who is a strong female character. So I just wanted to point that out.
I totally agree. It was funny. I think I told you the other day, Bob, usually when you have a story about, I brought up Derek, Batman and Robin. When Robin, we've seen in film, it hasn't been a lot. He has, Batman has tried to persuade him not to take up crime fighting, not to revenge his parents' deaths.
Right.
Whereas with this movie, Anthony Hopkins right away said, I get it. You're upset.
Yeah.
I'm going to teach you how to fight back.
Well, he had his own reasons for revenge.
Yeah,
Exactly.
he did, because he needed the help too. He physically couldn't be Zorro anymore.
Right. But still, he was, he was focused on, what's his name? What was the villain's name?
Raphael
Montero.
Yeah, Raphael. And so, yes, he needed Antonio Banderas. He needed Zorro to basically take over for him, to also focus on the captain and, do all kind of like the dirty work. But in reality, he fought Raphael again.
Yeah.
That was his focus, because Raphael took everything from him. I thought that was really cool. What else? It just was just a really good movie still. I think I've seen it so many times and never had an issue with it. It gets better every time. When you have Anthony Hopkins, who was, fantastic in that movie. Here's this actor who just, sitting there and teaching him the sword fighting is like 1, 2, good.
135.
135.
But that was hilarious just from the get-go. He's like, do you know how to use that thing? Uh-huh. Pointy end goes into the other man.
It's so good. Just imagine.
And I love it because, right, like you said, when he's telling him to attack slow and everything, It's because you see Banderas first walk up and he's like, and then he gets the sword knocked out of his hand like it's nothing.
He uses a spoon and he hits the sword and it goes flying. But what do you guys think? Like, obviously it's a story, but Anthony Hopkins was in prison for 20 years and he never thought during that time to do what he did. Was he waiting for the right time?
It's a movie, Josh. Suspend disbelief. Let's have fun.
Okay. Personally, just to kind of answer Josh's question yet again.
Look it up.
No, I think personally it's just because everything had been taken from him. He had been in prison. I think maybe he was thinking about giving up by this point because as far as he knew, Raphael had gone back to Spain.
Right.
And there was no way he was going to be able to find him. But sure enough, he comes back, and when he sees him, that's when he knows he needs to get out of there because there's a reason he's back. And it's not just, and obviously he wants to take his revenge, but yeah, he realizes no, there's a reason he's back, and we need to figure it out why he's back. And so, of course, he enlists Banderas' help or Alejandro's help. So anyway, anything else, Josh?
No, that was it. Great movie.
Derek, what do you think?
I didn't listen to anything what Bob said about Catherine Zeta-Jones. I was preoccupied. What was that about a lead feminine character? Anyway, funny story. I owned Men in Black, the VHS tape back in the day, and this was the one preview that was on it, was the Mask of Zorro.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
Yeah, so that's how I found out about this movie. It was a lot of fun. It was a blast going back and watching this. I was taking a look at just some of the information here. This came out July 17th, 1998. So this is thick of summer blockbuster activity happening here. It had a budget of $95 million. You're right, Bob. It did gross some money, but not as much as you would think. 250.
Yeah, it made a lot of its money from the international gross.
Yes,
and it was enough to greenlight a sequel, but it wasn't like it tore it up at the box office. That's why I say it's kind of underrated, and a lot of people don't even think about it because there was a lot of people who didn't see it.
Well, that's what I was kind of curious about. Is it just because we're in the summertime and it's vacation season and people just miss this one?
Maybe it's just because Zorro's not exactly the superhero that they think of, and I don't know, but I remember I went to see that in the theaters. I like you said, it was a summer movie, and I actually went with my mom. It was just her and I. I don't remember why my dad couldn't go, but it was just her and I, and both of us walked out of that film just like, whoa, that was
a blast.
Something else.
Yeah. Major production too, like right from the start, in the beginning, in the town square there with all the people.
Yeah,
that was money.
It's a great sequence.
Exactly. And then the whole remainder of the movie, just, I mean, all of it really just does have beautiful set design. It's really, really well done. They paid a lot of attention to detail. Even the cave they, do the training in is cool. Like, just a really nice effect. Agree with Josh totally about Antonio Banderas. He definitely comes off quirky, slapsticky.
Yeah.
But that's why you love him. That's part of the charm with him, and that's how he becomes endearing.
But it works so well because he's very different than Diego, and they're two very different types of Zorros, especially early on. Because and a lot of that is because of their backgrounds, their different classes, their different. Diego was a don.
Yep.
Alejandro was a thief who was an orphan. So, they come up from very different backgrounds. And like you said, he is quirky. Just some of the things that he does, like that whole sequence where he's trying to steal the horse is hilarious. I'll get to more than that in a minute, but go ahead, Derek.
No, it's all right. The relationship with Anthony Hopkins and Antonio Banderas in the movie too is great. Anthony Hopkins is funny, like in the dry way. You know, he has to put the opposite of how Antonio Banderas does it, which is what makes the relationship gel. That's fantastic. It's interesting these days too, because now the villain is played by, a pretty leading man or woman character these days. But back then, that wasn't always the case. See, and the villain had to be kind of an actor or an actress that you didn't really know all that well. And I was actually pleasantly surprised by both the villains in this, Captain Love and Raphael. Right. I wish I had known them a little bit more, but I remember even watching them just like, man, I don't even know who these guys are, but they're really good. And the story is great too. The idea of how Zorro comes to be, how Anthony Hopkins really reiterates, you putting on that mask doesn't make you Zorro. Zorro was a man of the people.
Yeah.
And he emphasizes that throughout the whole thing. Well done. Like, big fan of this one.
One thing both of you said, and I did my homework here, Bob, instead of asking you about that. You said you went with your mom to see the movie July 17th, 1998.
I don't know. I don't remember if we went opening day. I do remember though we went.
You said it was, it didn't do as well as maybe they would have liked. 2 movies that came out within a 3-week period. July 1st, I believe, Armageddon.
Oh.
And July 15th, I think, Something About Mary.
Oh.
So it had, plus many others I looked at, but maybe that had to do more people wanting to go back to, as Bobby always says, going back to see Armageddon a couple times.
Maybe.
And Something About Mary.
They could have got the short end of the stick with distribution, because if there were already that many movies out during a high season for summer, they may have just gotten the short end of the stick.
I mean, there were quite a bit. I mean, those were the 2 that I kind of referenced, but Studio 54, Rounders, Basketball.
Dang.
Yeah.
Oh, that was 98?
Yeah, like
holy smokes.
I'm just seeing, I mean, Disturbing Behavior, Rush Hour.
Rush Hour.
So yeah, there were like, it was a busy movie time. But I mean, Bobby and I went to see Something About Mary, I think, around that time.
Oh
we
my gosh.
We
were on the floor laughing.
Oh,
it's so
never
good.
laughed so hard. Our friend, I think, fell off his seat.
Yeah. It's
Josh, I fell off my seat.
Yeah.
Oh, so good. Oh, we'll get
so anything else, Derek?
Oh man, I'm trying to think. Other than I mentioned before, but did I miss anything? I think I pretty much got all of what I was thinking there. Yeah, I think I'm good.
You mentioned the production, from the sets and all that stuff. Something I want to throw in there: the music. The music is fantastic.
Oh, yes, that's right. Good point.
It really gets you into the story. So when Alejandro becomes Zorro for the first time, and I'm not talking where he tried to steal the horse, when he becomes Zorro for the first time, that scene where he's in the hacienda and he steals the map and he's trying to escape, I just think that is so good. So just the music in the background as he's fighting Captain Love for the first time, and he's fighting Raphael. He's fighting the both of them, which I think looks pretty cool.
That was great.
But the rest of the sequence is him trying to escape the hacienda, and it feels, I don't know if any of y'all saw like the old Zorro shows. Like they had one on Disney that was a black and white one.
Yeah,
and then they had one on we used to watch it was KTLA out here. But they had a Zorro show here.
Yeah,
that I remember watching. But anyway, in a lot of those, he was always on the run, being shot at, trying to get away. And that's what that felt like. But that's the first time that the Zorro theme is played for Alejandro. All the previous times, it was always played for Anthony Hopkins. But that's the first time you really hear it played for Alejandro as he's running and, he's jumping off the banister and he's going toe to toe with all of these soldiers, and he's flipping around on the trees, on everything else, and he's fighting Captain Love and Raphael and all of them. And it's a fantastic sequence here. The music is going. I mean, it's just
very well done.
The part we talked about the other day where the guy goes, "Kill him."
Oh, that's what I was going to get to now. The sequence where he's trying to steal the horse is hilarious.
But let me ask you, the big guy who dies, Derek, was that Giant Gonzalez?
No.
Are you sure?
Yes.
No, it wasn't him.
Wasn't him.
I thought it was him. It looked.
No, it's a big tall dude, but it's not him.
It's a big tall dude. That's it.
But that is funny because you got this little guy right there, the big tall guy. He's like, kill him.
Kill him now.
Well, the firing off the cannon. Oh,
what I love is when he goes to kill him, he grabs those two cannonballs and he's just and then all of a sudden you see him turn around and he spits out this mouthful of teeth. Dude, I mean, that's a great sequence. And after he lights the cannon and shoots it off, he's like, "Zorro, the legend has returned!" And he turns around and everything's about to blow.
That's what was the funny thing.
It's because he's a little quirky, and and then that bleeds into the next sequence where he's in the confession booth with Elena.
Yes,
and that's hilarious too.
Yes,
because he's trying to play off like he's the priest, and she's
you killed someone? No, Father, that is not the fourth commandment.
But just like even from the get-go, his first line there, because she's like, "Padre, it sounds like there's a battle out there." "Don't worry, my dear. You're safe in the house of the Lord." I mean, he's great. And then I love it because she's like, "It's been 3 days since my last confession." "What? How many sins could you have committed in 3 days? Come back when you have more time."
I just love her reaction though when she goes, "Forgive me, Father, I have sinned. I broke the fourth commandment." "You killed someone?" "No, Father, that is not the fourth commandment."
Or when she turns around, she tells him, "I had impure thoughts about a man," and he goes,
"Go on."
Yes.
I think Antonio Banderas is a lot more like that funny slapstick guy in real life than like the
look at him,
the Latin lover that the women all fell in love with, and Desperado where he's badass, and I think that's him. That's just funny.
I still love Desperado though.
And again, the whole sequence just plays out really good. Even right at the end of that sequence where he's up on the roof and he's trying to get the horse to come to him, and he's like, "Horse, come here, come here, storm, thunder, stupid, come here." And finally the horse comes over, and he goes to jump on the horse, and the horse moves.
Just moves like in just a couple steps. And then right on the floor.
It's such a great sequence, and that leads into another good one where he's pretending to be a gentleman, and that's a great sequence, where the way he dances with Elena and whatnot. That was a pretty hot sequence.
It was good.
And then what's hilarious is Raphael comes over and he puts all the blame on Elena. He's like, "Oh, your daughter is a very spirited dancer." and he's like, "I apologize if you're offended." "Don't worry, she's young."
It is okay.
Oh yeah, I mean it's such a great sequence. There's so much in this movie. This is like an old school adventure movie. You mentioned Anthony Hopkins. He's great as the original Zorro. Even the opening sequence, like I love the opening sequence there in the town square. How he rescues the people, and as he's leaving, and you see him on the horse, the horse is kind of leaping on 2 feet. And you have the sun in the background and the Zorro music playing. Again, it's a great sequence. The whole thing is just really good. This is just an old school film. I think it holds up very well today. It feels like this is a movie that could have been made today because it holds up so well. It is very fun. About the only thing that you could not get away with today is the sequence where he's sword fighting Elena. You probably couldn't get away with that today. People would say, because he kept kissing her, they'd be like, "Oh, he's forcing himself on."
Yeah, but she kissed him too.
Yeah, well, because we already knew
There
that
was
she wanted.
feelings. There were
Yeah, she had
feelings.
already said she was having impure thoughts about him.
Mhm. And by the way, the end with the big explosion,
Oh,
that's
was
a
good.
hard thing to get these days, folks. If you're going to go out and watch this, that's old school.
Yeah.
The
I
big,
agree.
big explosion at the end.
I had forgotten that Anthony Hopkins dies. I couldn't remember if he had
Yeah.
survived or
Yeah.
not. And I was like, oh yeah, he does.
I mean, the mantle was truly passed. Whoever came up with this idea, I mean, was great
Well
because the whole idea of passing the mantle of Zorro. Because I grew up watching some of the old Disney Zorro, and I used to love watching it. And I was a fan of Diego de la Vega, and then I remember seeing the first trailer, and I was like, okay, this looks pretty cool, a Zorro movie. And
Right.
then I found out more about the story, that this was a passing of the torch movie, and it's handled in such a good way.
Yeah.
It respects the legacy character and has their new character that was funny. He goes on this adventure, a great story arc for him, because he's a buffoon when it starts. Yes, he's a buffoon with a mission, because his brother was killed, but he is a buffoon, and by the time it's done, he's able to take his revenge with honor, save everybody, and he's got the skills that he needs to be Zorro for years to come. And of course, there is a sequel. Like I said, it's terrible, but they and it's not because they didn't try, but it doesn't hold up to the original. But anyway, fantastic movie. This was a underrated film that deserves another look.
Are they all in the sequel? Is Catherine Zeta-Jones and Antonio Banderas in the sequel?
Yes, they're in the sequel. Joaquin, their little kid, he's older. It takes place about 10 years later.
Yeah.
Where the United States is about to annex California.
So what was wrong with it?
It just doesn't hold up to the original. The villains just aren't the same. To be honest, it's been so long since I've seen it. There was a couple of jokes that just didn't land the way that they do in this one.
Watch it. Maybe we should watch it as our.
It's not horrible. There are worse films, but let's put it this way. Last week we talked about sequels that were better than the original. This ain't one of them.
Yeah.
But put it that way. The sequel's actually, in case y'all ever do want to watch it, it's called The Legend of Zorro. And like I said, it takes place about 10 years after the other one. It's still Banderas and whatnot. And so it's interesting, but it just doesn't hold up.
Yeah. All right.
No, but The Mask of Zorro is an amazing film.
Oh, it didn't come out till 2005. I think I saw this.
Way later.
Yeah, it's much later. So I mean, it's not a shock that it's like 10 years later. So
fair enough.
But anyway, Mask of Zorro. Anything else y'all want to say on The Mask of Zorro?
Watch it. Go back. Have fun.
Watch it. Tell us what you think.
Yeah, that movie is an absolute.
Hit that like button and tell us what you think.
To be honest, I had more fun watching this than I've watched. A lot of films that I saw that I've seen in the theaters this year.
Wow.
This is when movies were done right. When I was your age.
That's right. Back with competent writers, with competent actors, and competent directors. This was truly a lot of fun. And it's just a fun movie. It's like an old school adventure. Yeah. Go watch it.
Mm-hmm.
Very good.
Derek, you said that you had a movie for us, so we'll be watching another one for next week, another film that we consider underrated. Derek, what is the movie?
All right. Well, I think I am pretty good in my selection here. We'll go into the action route one more time. My movie for you guys is Face Off.
Oh, yes.
Guess what? I have never watched it.
You've never seen Face Off?
I've never seen Face Off. That's
awesome.
My
goodness.
You are in for a treat, sir.
A treat.
I might have seen parts of it, but I don't think I've ever seen the full movie.
Dude, you're going to have a ball.
There's so much we're going to have to say about this one.
I'm excited. What's it on?
You can find it out there. I think through Xfinity, it's on like Pluto, but it's out there.
Let me look it up real quick. Hold on.
Okay. Yep.
Finally. Face Off, 1997.
Okay, you can watch it on Pluto.
Yeah.
You can watch it on Paramount Plus.
Okay, great.
Um,
Okay, I have Paramount.
so yeah, it
Yeah.
is available to watch.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll watch it.
You've never seen this?
I'm being honest with you. Maybe
Oh
I've
my
seen parts of
goodness.
it.
First
I'm
time.
telling you, you are in for a treat. John
It's awesome.
Travolta, Nicolas Cage.
I mean, I
You are
remember.
in for a real treat here.
Is there? Okay,
Well done, Derek, because we're going to have some fun with this one.
let me
Yeah,
ask you this: is there a part? And again, I don't think I've seen the whole thing. Like with them both in tuxedos
No,
fighting.
I
No,
don't
I
know.
don't think so.
Okay,
At a
No.
wedding, you said no.
At a wedding?
not
No,
at a wedding.
not at a
They're
wedding.
just both like not at a wedding. They're just like in
No.
tuxedos fighting.
Oh, no.
No, or maybe I don't know. I'm going to watch it. I'm excited.
It's
I mean, there's plenty of
Very-
scenes with them in suits, but not tuxedos.
Maybe that's it. Maybe that's it. I really don't
No. You are in for a treat. You thought the mask. Okay, the Mask of Zorro was a great treat.
It was.
Face Off is a great treat. And what year did Face Off come out? Was that 97?
97.
So
It's a-
we're going just a year before that,
One
before the
year
Mask
before.
of Zorro. So
Yep, that's it.
all right, good
You're
choice.
gonna have a good time. Yep.
Okay,
All right.
take a look at it.
So next week we will watch, or we'll be watching Face Off during the week. We'll also so that's your homework this week: Face Off and Agatha, and then we'll figure out what else we're going to talk about next week.
What about the Penguin?
Oh yeah, the Penguin. So that'll be the other.
we got a lot
That'll
to
be the
do.
other homework. Okay, so those are going to be our homework: Face Off, the Penguin, and Agatha.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So that's what
And
we'll.
then we're also. Are you going to announce where we're going to be next week, Bob?
Well, hopefully,
Hopefully?
everything's
Oh,
a go. But as of right now, we are scheduled to be on another stream. I don't want to say anything just yet, just in case something were to.
We'll send a video out.
fall
We'll send a video
out,
out.
So. But yeah, if everything's a good to go when we do next week's show, we'll announce the stream,
Oh, that's
and
right.
we can put the description in the links below, or not the link descriptions. We can put the link in the descriptions below. You know what I meant on that one.
Yes, you know.
So yeah, good show tonight, gentlemen. Where can we find you at, Josh?
You can find me on Facebook, on Instagram, on TikTok, on LinkedIn. I am the family man of the Valley. I am a real estate agent here in Southern California. If you're thinking about buying or selling your home, interest rates we just found out have dropped. So please give me a call.
All right, Derek, where can we find you at?
Talking about 1997 and 98. Now I really do feel old. All right. Facebook and LinkedIn as a result.
All right. Now you can find me on YouTube over at my YouTube channel. Was it good? Easiest way to find me is Bob Loves Movies, all one word. I actually went over 800 subscribers over the weekend. My last review, I reviewed that film, Am I Racist? And it got over 30,000 views.
Oh my
Nice.
God,
So
incredible.
So yeah, I was not expecting that. To be honest, I was hesitant to review it, not because I was afraid anybody would come at me. I've already had people call me all sorts of things, so that's really not even that big of a deal. But just due to life events going on, I was like, I don't know if I really want to deal with it this weekend. And I was expecting a huge blowback. And to be honest, I haven't got a huge blowback. They've been targeting bigger YouTubers that have reviewed it. So but yeah, I got some pretty good views on that. Literally, I had 720 subscribers going into Friday, and last I checked, it was at 818.
Dang.
Wow.
So
that's some work.
yeah, so I was glad I ended up reviewing it. But
Yeah.
anyway, I'd like to thank everyone for joining us tonight, and as always, hope that you'll like the video, subscribe to the channel. Gentlemen, we will see you next week. And don't forget the homework. It should be a lot of fun.
Yep.
All right.
Thanks,
All right.
everybody.
And you guys have a great night.
Hey, you guys too.
Great night.
Bye-bye.
Bye.